Ahoy! This is the final episode of my crafting guide series. I'm going to try giving you a few tips about advancing with your MET at Chloe, and I will highlight a few recipes that are definitely worth unlocking. Before I begin, I ask that you keep the annotations on. If anything else comes up after this video, I will create some notes to add those pieces of information or tips or anything to it. Well, first of all, the basic rule about advancing. If you're at the beginning of a category, the easiest and possibly the cheapest option is to start crafting damage amplifiers. They give you a decent amount of MET, there are plentiful resources available, and it won't cost you much to register the recipe. Also, if you're into mission wars, you'll be able to make good use of them. If there's nothing else in that category that is worth crafting to sell or to use, then I'd recommend crafting amplifiers until you reach the MET to be able to craft dungeon entries. Of course, you can continue crafting amplifiers, but the good thing about dungeon entries is that you can always just sell them or make use of them yourself, and the drops hopefully reward you well enough to pay for your materials. I mentioned that this is the best thing to follow unless there's something else worth crafting. For example, upgrade core and force core crystals are useful because they are needed for countless other purposes, from crafting equipment to creating higher grade discs and material cores and so on. Another example is extract potions. They are in the first category, so you're likely to pass them pretty fast, but they are the items that people buy all the time, so you're very likely to be able to just sell them. Buff potions can also come in handy to use or to sell them to crafters who need those for higher grade potions. The most popular of those is Fury Potion, the one that gives you spirit points if you drink it. It has 3 craftable levels and the third one gives a whole SP bar if you use it, so those things are pretty useful in harder dungeons. And last but not least, you have upgrade and force cores that are always worth selling. I guess I won't have to tell you why. Anyway, generally you should follow that rule until you reach the category starting at 4000 MET. At 4500 MET, chaos cores become available. They are by far the best items to craft. You can obtain the fragments in Eternal Chaos Arena, and you actually have to unlock that recipe if you want to farm that dungeon, unless you have a partner to craft them for you. I honestly believe that is the most profitable thing to craft, assuming that you're willing to farm dungeons for them. The good news is 500 points after the beginning of each category starting from 4000, you have chaos cores in larger stacks. They can help you with your progress a lot, and they are sure to bring their price back very soon. After 7000 MET, you can no longer craft damage amplifiers, but force cores become available, so you can still progress your mastery that way. As for the money-making part, I mentioned chaos cores and fury potions, but the goal of most people is the ability to craft slot extenders and perfect cores. One reason for that is that low-grade extenders and perfect cores are common event drops, but since they are crown binding, you cannot sell them. However, they can be used to craft non-binding ones of higher grade. That's my goal as well one day. From what I've heard, the success rate is terribly low, but it's still worth it, even only because of the events. Oh, and one more thing, with the Valentine's Day event, it might be worth unlocking the recipe to upgrade charms. If you open those letters or gift boxes or whatever, you can get account binding charms, but if you upgrade them through crafting, they will become tradable. But that's it about requesting. I'm afraid I can't give you too many tips about equipment crafting because I don't have much experience in it. Honestly, I don't intend to progress much more with that because of 2 reasons. One, it's expensive as hell. You have to invest billions of hours to craft your first item that is actually worth selling. And 2, at least on the European server Mercury, there are so many hackers that Archidium items with amp or critical damage are practically free if you take a look at the agent shop. And apart from the character binding attribute, they are almost as good as Craftsman's Mithril. And let me tell you, crafting Mithril items is already a great feat. As for the master items, their success rate is even lower. In fact, it's so low that those items practically don't exist on this server at the moment, so I wouldn't recommend focusing on those. Well, I'm sure there are a lot of people who would disagree with me, but in my honest opinion, equipment crafting just isn't worth it anymore. Or at least until they do something about the hackers. That doesn't mean you shouldn't craft anything at all, but I'd just like to emphasize that you'd better not hope to get rich doing that. Anyway, I can still talk a bit about progressing. Fortunately, it's pretty simple. Just open your craft window and look for the lowest grade item that you can craft that still gives you amity. Since the stuff you need for lower grade items are much cheaper, you should just keep crafting those until you reach the point where you no longer gain amity doing that. Once you reach that, just switch to a higher item and keep crafting that while you still gain mastery, and continue on until you reach something that is actually worth some money. Well, I included every tip that I could think of, but as usual, if anything else pops into my head or someone comments on this video with valuable additions, I'll create some annotations to add them to the video. Good luck with your future tries! If you found this video helpful, please consider sharing it or subscribing to my channel. Ahoy!